My name's Dawes, and I'm a designer. I guess I make things. My talk comes from the fact that many years ago, like when I was young, I used to compile breakbeat albums, and I would find samples and I would combine them to make music with. And I think all I do nowadays is the same, but do it digitally. The samples are effectively anything.
Lovely to be here. I have to say, it's probably the best looking crowd I've ever done a talk. It's beautiful young fuckers. Right, so why are you showing me that? I don't need that shit. Right, so, yeah, don't worry about that. Shall we begin? This is a diagram, right? Probably like lots of people in this audience, in this fucking tunnel. Your mum probably doesn't know what you do for a living. I know my mum has no idea what I do for a living, right? So I drew her this diagram, and I said, well, Mum, it's kind of like, I have like a bit of art and a bit of design and technology, and where those things coalesce in the middle, Mum, I'll have a cup of tea in a minute, just listen. That's the kind of things that I make. And she looked at me and said, I told my hairdresser you invented Google Maps. I was like, no, I didn't invent Google Maps because I wouldn't be here if I did. So this is kind of how I explain. And I think people working in this kind of field, it's very hard for us to explain what we do anymore. It's kind of like, is it graphic design? Is it, the job I'm currently working on, I'm writing stuff on a server that's creating graphics, and, so it's harder and harder to explain what we do. My process is kind of like this. It doesn't really get any more sophisticated. It's like, at the beginning, it's like, holy shit, it's just like, what am I doing? I told the client I could do this. I know jack shit. I'm just stupid. And then you're trying to get to this beautiful thing at the end, right? And so you get rid of the ugliness, hopefully, and you're trying to work your way to beauty. I think that's all the process is. No matter what it is, I think that's what it comes down to. From ugly to beautiful things. But of course, the only problem is with that is you have like the thing in your head, and then the thing you make is like, shit, that's not what I imagined. And you have a constant battle every day with this gap in the middle. And I think all we're trying to do as designers and people who make things, we're trying to reduce that gap. I imagine even Stanley Kubrick still had a gap at some point, We never get to perfection. It's like this mythological thing, but that's the goal we're searching for, so that's good. So this talk really is about combinations, how we combine things, how I like to combine lots of small things to make other things. And this comes from my previous life. I used to compile breakbeat albums for a living. Not for a living, I made 400 quid. You get more on the fucking street. But this was like kind of fun. I would scour second-hand record shops, and you remember when we had this thing called vinyl back then? All the young people in the room are going, what? We had this thing called vinyl, and I would scour and try and find these obscure breakbeats, and then they would go on this album. This was for Warrior Records, who are a sort of underground record label here in London. So I did some stuff like that, and then I had a bit of a record contract during the rave scene in Manchester. I was Vitamin Beat, and people go, yeah, God, was that you? No, never heard of me, I know. But made hardly any money, had a few 12-inch singles. I played Cream, which was, I used to be cool. I'm not cool anymore. Now I just like to watch Columbo on a Sunday. What's wrong with that? But I used to be cool. And I think all I do nowadays is actually the same stuff, combining things. And I used to do it with audio and razor blades and splicing tape. And now I do it digitally, and I combine lots of different things to make other things with. So I have like lots of experiments like this that by themselves are really quite boring and dull. They're purposefully dull, right? They do one thing. So here's a little compilation of crap. I'm liking the laughter in the front. It's beautiful. So I'd wake up and, I'd make lines around a sphere. How do I do that? Sine waves are awesome. We all know this. Data, make lights flash and breathe, make my own presentation software, things that go like that. I don't know what that is. LEDs, proximity shit, an egg that pops up. So, yeah, Mona Lisa in 3D, sine waves again. So I do lots of these things. And by themselves, they don't really mean anything, but the power is when you combine these things to make other things. And that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to take you through a few different projects that do that. But here's a really cool one. Kids, you can do this at home. You can spend about £5 and you can do this, right? So you can get yourself, that is a vibration motor from a mobile phone, and you can buy these off eBay. They're like £2, right? That is as you probably can tell, it's a little battery, about £1. And by themselves, yeah, so what? Well, if you combine them, you can do stuff like this. Enjoy. That one's pretty cool. Oh, I like the gondola. That's cool. Right, so, thank you. Yeah, and so just get that shit off eBay and it's cool. But that was a workshop at Arup, the engineering company. They paid me to do this. Ridiculous. So, anyway, but they had so much fun, and it's just a really, if you're having a creative meeting, or you want to just have something fun at the beginning, I recommend doing this. It's not copyright me or anything, so don't worry about it. So yeah, combinations, right? Pretty cool. So I'm going to show you 3 projects very quickly from a print piece, an interactive installation, and a so-called Internet of Things thing. And this was a project I did. In fact, the guy I worked with it on, Peter Johnston, is in the audience somewhere, so hello, Pete. I haven't seen him for years. And this was a project for EE, and they came to me and said, we're launching 4G across 11 cities in the UK, and we want to sort of celebrate it and market. So we want you to work with University College London. They'll collect the data, and you make these like art data, viz art things, and we'll gift them to each city, and we'll have civic receptions. And I was like, this sounds ace, brilliant job. So they said to me, what are you going to make? And I said, I have no idea what I'm going to make. But we want it to be original and cool and never been seen before. Can you show us an example of what you've done before? No, because that's, a contradiction, right? So I then went away and I saw, so the previous thing, you sort of, you saw that it was this sketch and I sort of gave them that. And then I looked into my digital cupboard, the stuff that I was, playing around with, like you've just seen. And I had this, so this is called a Vogel spiral. And do you remember when we used to make stuff like this in Flash? This was, you remember the nice days when no one criticized anyone, no one wrote 10 fucking Medium posts about user experience. Yeah, fuck you. So anyway, medium splaining, I believe it's called, which is really interesting. So yeah, I used to make shit like this. And this is a Vogel spiral. You can look up how to do this algorithm on Wikipedia. It's the head of a sunflower, is the mathematics behind it. So I thought, oh, maybe that's kind of interesting. So I started to send the client these kind of things, and they kind of, got a bit worried. And the idea was, University College London gave me some test data. I think it was about 1,000 tweets. And I was going to go and play around with 1,000 tweets, and I'd make stuff like this. And then come the big day, there was like 3 days they wanted to collect all this data from 11 cities. And then on the Monday, they would give me the data, and then my system would spit out these images. So I was like, cocky little shit. And I said, well, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to rock. Let's do this. But they sent me the data on the Monday, and it was taking it was a text file, and it took almost an hour to download. I was like, shit, this is a bit worrying. And it was the London one was 6 million tweets, and I'd been playing with 1,000. And I put it into my software, and it just went, yeah, I really don't think so, Bren. Fuck off. So that's what happened. And they're ringing me, Saatchi's are ringing me up going, how's it going? I says, oh, man, if you could see it, I am crying right now. It's it's emotional. But there was only just me. I don't even own a dog. So I couldn't turn around and say to anyone, help. So you Google the shit out of this thing, right? So, but it's also about going back to simplicity. You realize that actually, what if I just read in one tweet at a time, made a mark on the canvas, and I could have 1 billion things, it wouldn't matter. So in the end, that's what I did. And so this is the one for London. These aren't really made for on screen. They're like giant prints, 6 feet high. So it's like a sunflower shape. Time goes from the center outwards, and it's over 3 days. And the color, there's sort of a color key at the bottom, which you can't see. But you can see that there's this mass of white on the middle day. And the white represents Hurricane Sandy, which hit the eastern seaboard of the United States on the middle day. And even though this is London, you can see that everyone is doing their tweet about, I really feel for the people in New York and hope Hurricane Sandy didn't kill anyone and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, with Twitter being a transient thing, you can see that everyone then goes to sleep. There's this black ring. And then on the next day, everyone goes, what the fuck was that Hurricane Sandy thing? It's yeah, I've done my emotive tweet now. I don't give a shit. Here's a picture of a cat. So, and it's sort of evident in this image. So the other thing you can see is, so these are Liverpool and Southampton. Manchester, you can see there was 4 red explosions. That was Man United were playing, and they scored 4 goals. And then I think there's, you can see, so this red one on the London one, this is when Obama visited New York, and at that exact moment. So you end up with this kind of visual fingerprint. So here's the Manchester one, and you see Man United scored 4 times, and there's these 4 red explosions. And then I seem to have done a lot with Twitter. I don't know why, I didn't plan it this way, but I seem to be the go-to guy sometimes to do stuff with Twitter data. This was for a thing in Paris, and they approached me and said, we're doing this one-night installation. And they showed me this amazing venue, and all the screens were embedded in the walls. I said, well, it's kind of like windows, so maybe we're looking through the windows, and maybe we're looking at creatures or something. So I started, again, it's this starting off ugly. So I do lots of these little sketches, so flocking motions of things, and don't worry about the colors at this point and all that kind of stuff. And this is not going to look like this. Obviously, I'm saying this to the client, and they're kind of loving this. Yeah, there's something interesting here. So I did lots of these iterations. Sine waves, if you apply a sine wave to a 3D mesh, you get these kind of weird shapes, which is quite nice. Did lots of stuff like this. Looked like kitchen utensils and colanders. Wasn't really the look I was going for. And then I have this thing in the back of my head. So this is the one you want to tweet if you get your phones ready. So data by itself is not enough. Data needs poetry. I firmly believe that. It's like you're trying to find the in-between moments, because that's what people connect with, I believe. This humanness, this thing that you can't quite put your finger on. So I had, I'm looking at all this stuff I did, and I think, it's all right. It's kind of, it's okay. But it's not exciting me. Where's the poetry? So I realized, again, from the digital cupboard, I worked out how to map lines around a sphere, because, I have no friends. And so I did this thing, and I thought, well, maybe if we map the movement of these things around a sphere, maybe it'd be more poetic. So that's what I did, and you can see that when you actually apply that, suddenly they're swimming around this invisible sphere. And already it's just way more interesting than them going in a linear way. And then in the end, there was like a real change in the aesthetic. And so it looked like this. And I'll tell you what the hell's going on after the video. Sorry. My computer decided to go to sleep. So people tweet in, and based off their Twitter profile, it creates one of these creatures that's unique to them. It looks at how many years you've been on Twitter, looks at how many people you're following, how many people are following you. And I think we can have about 200 things on screen at once. So yeah, that's what Twitter looks like in my head. So you end up with these little creatures that are made on the fly algorithmically. If you were following more people than were following you, we said you were like kind of voyeuristic. So you got massive eyes, and there's lots of other things that I'll just bore you to death but there was lots of different things that influence these creatures. But of course, because the 3D meshes, you can print them out, 3D print them. And I have a friend at MMU in Manchester, full color 3D print, and so you can print the whole family out and hold these things, digital things become physical. This guy is like, or girl, I don't know. There was no gender applied to them. This one's pretty cool, right? And I thought, right, I'll put me in. What am I going to look like? And I went, oh, shit. I was like, what? I was like, oh, bollocks. Right? No one wants to party with me. It's like, they're all going to the other guys. I'm like, shit, I've been on here since 2007, you bastards. Right, so, and some little guy. And there's the one that this person is following more people than is following them. So they're like got massive eyes. And finally, I thought I'd throw in a connected product, so I do electronic things as well. And with this story, I just want to say, you don't have to wait for a brief to come to you. Just be cheeky and approach a client, and it sometimes pays off. I knew someone at MailChimp, the newsletter company in Atlanta, and I said, well, you're all about user experience, and I'm doing like these user experience electronic experiments. Maybe we should get together and explore email in physical form and what that could mean. And in 2 emails, we'd done a deal, and then so I'm going to show you that. So I use Electric Imp a lot, which is a great system for Wi-Fi connectivity. It's built for, if you want to deploy 1 million of these things, you can do that. So I like it because of the infrastructure and the user experience all the way through is really impressive. I started to Velcro, amazing, we all know that. So here's a couple of things. This one is basically the idea of being able to email an object and use email. It's a ubiquitous interface, and why not use it to control things? So here I'm going to control a light. So I just email it and say, blink yellow, and it goes okay. You don't need to know what the interface is, you just need to know about the grammar. You don't need a special app, you just use email. Anything that can send email can control it. And what I love, I gave this to my brother-in-law who's into like windsurfing and stuff, and he needs to know like, is it going to be too windy to go out? So he put this under his TV, and he set it up with, how many people here use IFTTT? Yeah, T. Yeah, that one. And he set up all these rules, and because it can send email, it could control this thing. It didn't have to know about this thing itself. So that was okay, and people really liked that. The one that everyone loved was the simplest thing. It was the idea of email as an You know, a lot of the times you ask yourself the questions, and this question was, why can't you turn email off like a light switch? So, you know, you might come home and you're away, you know, that weekend you go, I've had enough of this email, you know, so you just turn it off. Having light switches and switches gives you permission to do that thing. If you didn't have light switches, you'd have to go around and take the bulbs out every night. What a pain in the arse, right? So I just thought, well, let's make a switch on the wall for email, Facebook, could be anything. That's the one that kind of got so much press, which was, you know, really nice. And then finally, I did a really weird one. A lot of the times, things can come out of dicking about with different technologies, and I was playing around with muscle wire. And muscle wire is interesting. It contracts by 4%, and you can make it into a lever. And you can do, and it's silent, which is really nice. So I thought about notifications. Notifications are always like in your face. But what if they were a bit more... I do this one at conferences in the States, and I always say, I wanted a notification that was more English, was kind of embarrassed that it was notifying you. So it like told you and then kind of went back down. It was like, oh, I can see you're busy. Sorry. So here we go. And it's very specific, so you can set it up like, let me know when I get an email from my friend. And it'll go like this. Which is kind of weird, right? It's like not digital, not mechanical. It's somewhere in between because there's no moving parts, really. And it just goes back down because it's, oh, you're busy. Sorry, you didn't see me. And I think we should put shit like this in the world. We should do this stuff. It's stupid, right? But it gets people talking, and we need more of this stuff, I think. Not too much, because I still want to earn money doing it. And finally, I just want to play this video. This is Jonathan Glazer, and he directed the amazing Under the Skin, which for me is a masterpiece and one of the greatest films I've ever seen. But you know, people talk about user research and stuff, which I know is important, but I base all my stuff on feelings, and I think we need more stuff based on feelings. And I think this is kind of interesting what he says.
I had a feeling for it, and you start with a feeling for something. It's like the feeling is a very strong, sort of palpable one, and you can't necessarily articulate it, and you don't necessarily have an image for it, but you know that there's a feeling, and you know, and then you're trying to get to that. But you really are in you know, it's not an obvious journey. So you have an emotional compass, you know. That's the thing that that's your true north sort of thing all the way. But the story changes and the way you tell it countless times.
So that's the message I want to leave you with: is follow your emotional compass. Thank you very much.